Anyway, we have an interview coming up in the next segment, and I wanted to do a little bit. Is she on the line, Casper? Good deal. So we have an interview coming up here in the next segment. It's actually someone that I've had a conversation with here earlier this week. Her name is Lauren Ell. She is the founder and president of Republican Atheists, and she reached out to me some time ago, and we started talking, and I thought it would be an interesting concept. Now, for those that listen, look, you know that I'm a Christian conservative, but there's the moniker Republican Atheist has two sides to it. There's the political side, right, which is how we're going to govern, how we're going to live in a society, what we're going to allow our government to do. And so Lauren and many of you would have agreements on that as far as gun rights, and I'll let Lauren explain her thoughts and positions on all that. But gun rights, freedom of speech. She'll talk. She's actually an American. She lives in Sweden. She's currently in the U.S., I think, though, on visiting family or something. But anyway, she'll talk about some of the issues there. Of course, we have a short time together here during the second segment, but we have a full-length interview that I haven't not posted yet. I haven't posted it to the website, but here a little bit later today, I will post it at toddhuffradio.com/interviews, and you can listen to the full-length interview. You got to give me a little bit of time to get that up. I meant to have it up earlier, but look, as I've told you earlier this week, we've had a technological nightmare this week. iPhone crashes. My laptop crashed. I had even my iMac had some issues with the browser crashing and so forth. So I'm just, technologically speaking, I've taken it on the chin this week. So anyway, we'll be talking with Lauren after the break. But I want you to hear, especially what interested me was, look, she and I won't agree on religion because I'm not an atheist, but I respect that. That's something that makes America great, is that we allow people to live in accordance with their conscience. And I believe in, free exchange of ideas. Of course, we both can't be right. I mean, there either is or isn't a God, and it either is or isn't the God of Christianity. But we can have discussions on that. And look, it's when government begins to shut us up and say that you must believe in this or you cannot believe in that or what have you, we have problems. Government should exist for very limited reasons, not no government at all, but a limited government based on the concepts and the principles set forth by the Constitution. And that's what we'll talk briefly about, and that's what you'll be able to hear more of should you decide to listen to the full-length interview. It was an interesting conversation. I enjoyed it. Lauren's very pleasant and nice, and has a lot of good information to share on those issues, as well as issues that are comparing and contrasting some of the issues that we see in Europe, as well as some of those issues that are I guess arising here in the United States as well. But anyway, all that being said, we'll talk with her when we get back from this break. We're going to stop and take that break. You're listening to the home of conservative, not bitter talk radio. We'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back to Todd Huff Radio, the home of conservative, not bitter talk radio. And look, anytime we have an interview, I like to get right to it because we don't have a lot of time to do these interviews, say the next 7, 8, 9 minutes, what have you. But anyway, I have with me on the phone right now the founder and president of Republican Atheists. Her name is Lauren Ell. Lauren is an American, but she lives in Sweden, and she's been kind enough to join us this morning. Actually, she's on the West Coast, so it's early where Lauren is. Lauren, are you there? How are you this morning?
Hi, Todd. I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Look, I'll tell you off the top here that this is going to be a lot. We'll have to keep our conversation briefer than we did the other day. We had a longer talk, so I'm going to be a little pushier to get through some questions. So bear with me as we do this morning, but we'll try to get as much in as we can. So when we first talked, you introduced yourself as the leader of this group called Republican Atheists, and you had indicated to me, you told me that you were better received by Republicans, as far as your atheism was better received by Republicans than your Republicanism was accepted by atheists. Is that the case? And what, I guess tell us a little about that.
Yes, generally speaking, I participate in a lot of Facebook groups, and so I'm in a number of conservative Facebook groups online, and I've communicated with these groups, and I've said I'm a part of this group of Republican Atheists, and people have been generally understanding with me, a little suspicious, but they still like to hear me out. Whereas compared to atheist groups, I've found that I've been ostracized a lot for having conservative views and really defending my conservative views. And I've even been kicked out of a number of atheist groups for what, in my opinion, I'm speaking completely rational, but many atheists I've found kind of speak down on me to the point that they'll actually kick me out of their group.
Yeah, and we won't do that. That's one of the things I think I told you when we first talked. I appreciated, even though we disagree on some core issues. I mean, there's it's refreshing, I guess, to have a respect level for the opinions of the other person, even if it's something you disagree with really strongly. But so tell us why, because a lot of folks may be scratching their heads and saying, atheists, Republican, that makes no sense to me. I thought those were all Democrats, right? I mean, that's, I think, a common conception. Why are you a Republican?
I've always had interest in conservative issues. I've always had interest in foreign affairs, business, smaller government. I've never been really supportive of the welfare state expanding, and I'm also interested in self-protection and freedom of speech, and so that's drawn me to the Republican Party. For approximately 10 years, I vaguely would say I was a libertarian because it was just drilled into my head for a long time that the Republican Party wasn't for me. But this past general election, I decided to get more involved because I was really impacted by the shutdown of conservative speakers on college campuses across the United States. And I found that the Republicans were speaking more about these issues, and I wanted to get more involved in politics, and so that drove me more to the Republican Party.
So you're a proponent of free speech?
That's right.
I said you're a proponent of free speech then?
Yes.
And you're a defender of the Second Amendment?
Right.
And then you told me also that there were some, you're in Sweden, and you said that there's, of course, the mass migration or refugee crisis or whatever we want to call that. You've seen that firsthand as well. I guess tell us a little bit about what that's like in your now home country of Sweden.
I've lived in Sweden now for approximately 2 years, and I also lived in Sweden 10 years ago for a year as a foreign exchange student. So I've been around Swedish culture for some time. I've studied it here in the U.S. as well, and it's been really fascinating to analyze mass migration in Sweden. Sweden took in approximately 165,000 refugees in 2015, which was the second highest number of refugees that year in Europe. Germany was the only country that took in more. And I've just gradually been paying attention to Swedish news and observing how this has been impacting Sweden. Many politicians will say it's not impacting Sweden, we're totally fine, but it's impacted the police system a lot. Many police in Sweden have walked off the job because they're not paid enough. They don't feel prepared for the sudden increase in crime that's been sparked by mass migration, and the government has had to constantly allocate more funds to the police. The standards for the police have had to be lowered, actually, for IQ. So I take note a lot of the police, but the education system has also been impacted a lot. Standards have had to be lowered for education in order to integrate the refugees coming into the country. And employment, it's impacted all kinds of government-run sectors, including healthcare. And so that's also been a big part of why I took interest in the Republican Party and really why I wanted to start speaking up more in getting involved.
So you've seen some of these things to some. I don't want to say firsthand because I understand you live in a more remote, I guess, or further from the epicenter of all the population.
I live out in the sticks.
There you go, out in the sticks in Sweden. So you don't necessarily have it in your particular area, but you've seen it in local reports, and you know people that have experienced some other consequences or side effects of some of these.
Yes, I've met people who have actually moved out of their neighborhoods, who live closer to Stockholm, the capital. They've actually moved out of their neighborhood because of the sudden increase in crime.
So one of the things, and again, we don't have a lot of time here, but folks can listen. When I post it, I don't have it up there yet, but they can go to the website, toddhuffradio.com/interviews, and hear our conversation, a lengthier conversation where we talk a little bit about atheism, Christianity, a tad bit as well, but we get more into those issues of immigration and some of the things that you've seen as well. But when people say, I mean, it's a common misconception that the Republican Party is the small tent party in this world of identity politics. The media and the left often looks at groups of people and segments them into this particular segment and so forth, and instead of just looking at us as Americans and whatever. But anyway, you have a unique perspective on that because, again, you're not a common run-of-the-mill Republican or conservative. So when people say that the Republican Party is not a big tent party, what do you think, or what would you say about that?
Well, I think that what it's really coming down to is that there's people who are taking interest in conservative issues, and I think for a long time it was suppressed. I remember when I was in high school, I had the concept that being a Republican meant I had to be religious and I had to be, the concept is put out that it is primarily for men, for white men, and so I didn't take interest in the Republican Party for a long time for those reasons, but I think things just got pushed to the edge right now for the past 2 years of mass migration in Europe, and to see the violence breaking out across the United States, that I really took a second look at the Republican Party, and I said, this is something I want to get involved with, and the more I've gotten involved with it and I've connected with people, I found that it's not what I thought when I was in high school, that it is more open to people of all different backgrounds, people of different race, and so I'm really excited to be here.
Well, that's good to hear. To hear you say, especially having a different experience, a different perspective. But, the Republican Party, I separate conservatism, which is really what I can relate to. Republican Party is maddening in a lot of ways today to me. But that being said, it is the home still, the closest thing to home as far as a political voice in Washington, D.C., where we actually have people that can vote for things. But conservatism is about ideas. It's not about, people. The Democrats want to make it about gender or ethnicity or race or sexual orientation or even religion. It's not about those things. You might find a common thread. You might find that a lot of Christian or conservatives are Christians or whatever the case may be. But it's not a litmus test in that respect at all. And that's, in fact, when we believe in freedom of religion, we believe, and even as a Christian, I would tell you, God gives us the right to say no to him. And so that's what, I respect where you're coming from politically, and it's your individual choices are yours to make. We may try to persuade, you may choose to listen or not. So anyway, that's what makes this great. And Lauren, it's been good to talk with you. And if folks want to hear our longer conversation, they can go to the website. Again, it's going to be later today. It's not posted yet, but toddhuffradio.com/interviews. Lauren, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on the line.
All right. That was Lauren Ell, the founder and president of Republican Atheists. Anyway, thank her for coming on. I appreciate her coming on, I should say. And anyway, I've got to stop and take a break.